We all have those movies we remember from when we were younger and that we think back on with fond memories, regardless of the quality of the film itself. And for me, one of those movies has always been the 1998 version of Godzilla. I've mentioned in the past that this was one of my personal favorite guilty pleasures, and I figured I'd revisit the film and actually analyze it for the sake of the channel having something different for a change of pace. After viewing the film again, I have a lot to say about it and thought you guys might like to hear my thoughts. When this thing came out, it was advertised all over the place, and a lot of kids like myself were super excited to see a new version of Godzilla with the special effects of Jurassic Park.
I think I need a bigger box.
Now, back in that time of my life, I would stay up late some nights and watch TNT's Monster Vision, which would show a ton of Godzilla movies every now and again.
Joe Bob Briggs still here, and the giant swimming caterpillars. I love that part. It always gets to me. It's a little much when you can see the nozzle hole in their mouths as they're spraying that white goo all over Godzilla. I mean, it looks like somebody took a garden hose nozzle and painted a face on it, but still a great ending.
These old Godzilla movies got me really interested in the series as a kid, and I can remember getting a ton of Godzilla toys from the Japanese Heisei movies being made in the 1990s, that same year the American remake came out. I thought Godzilla was cool. He was a big dinosaur that smashed cities and fought other monsters. Nothing more and nothing less, really. When it came time for me to watch the new movie in theaters, I left pretty happy with what I'd seen. Now, nearly 20 years later, revisiting it from a critical standpoint is pretty interesting. A lot of Godzilla fans seem to hate on this movie for being so radically different from the old Godzilla movies they used to love from the 60s and 70s. I sort of understand why, but at the same time, I don't find that as a valid argument when discussing something that was inherently made to be Americanized, especially in the way this movie presents itself as somewhat of a satire. The truth is, there are two tones in this movie, one of which works, and the other completely misses the mark. When the movie is focused on the military fighting Godzilla and watching them go crazy from doing more damage to their city than the monster, I think it's really well made and entertaining. There are moments where the movie really comes into an amazing groove of awe-inspiring wonder at the magnificence of this man-made creature walking about the city and eating fish for its young. This is where the movie really outdoes itself and where I find myself having the most fun. But then the movie decides that we need to have human characters with personal situations that don't really have much to do with Godzilla himself. And to me, this was the big problem with the movie. Godzilla 1998 to me feels like the end of the Lost World meets an episode of Friends. And I mean, hell, look at the main cast. You've got literally a character that has a personality and traits similar to everyone in that 90s sitcom. We've got our Ross and Rachel, Joey, Monica, Phoebe, and even Chandler to some extent. The coolest character in the film, and the one that works the most for the movie, happens to be the one major human character that isn't connected to these people, and that's the French Secret Service agent. This is the Roland Timbo of Godzilla. The scenes he's in are really cool and fun to watch. His other teammates not so much, but they were only there to get eaten at the end by the the baby Godzillas. That's another thing this movie does, to a positive effect in my opinion, is turn Godzilla into a Jurassic Park clone. Now, at this point in the movie, it became clear to me that this was all satire, and just a big, giant Jurassic Park movie in New York. And like I said, I think the end of the Lost World meets Friends is the best way to describe this. I seriously can't think of a better analogy to offer. Now, if I said I thought this was an incredible movie, I'd be lying, because it isn't to me. There is a very real amount of cringe in some of these scenes between Ross, Nick Tatopoulos, and Audrey. Sometimes the stuff they say makes me smile ear to ear and just roll my eyes at how ridiculous this whole thing is getting. The mayor of this town is named Ebert, by the way, and his assistant is named Gene. They even show him giving the 2 thumbs up thing from the TV show At the Movies. For those a little younger, this was a show where Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert used to give a movie a thumbs up or a thumbs down and recommend if you should see it or not. They're used comedically in the movie as a way to show the movie isn't taking itself seriously. It was pretty funny when the movie got 2 thumbs down, though, back in the day. The two tones I talked about between the military wanting to kill Godzilla and the Friends episode being used to move the plot further along really don't go together at all. And at times it feels like you're watching some shitty romantic comedy everyone forgot about from 1998, and then it goes into a scene that looks like it was supposed to be Jurassic Park 3 before the real Jurassic Park 3 eventually came out. This is is a weird, quirky cheese fest from the people that made Independence Day, and totally distant from any other Godzilla movie that's ever been created. But I gotta admit, I enjoyed myself while I was watching it. It's a dumb movie, yes, but it's kind of aware that it's a dumb movie. It strangely plays the human elements a bit more serious than when Godzilla's eating helicopters and tanks are blowing up buildings in New York, and to me, this is where the movie fumbles the ball and feels forced. If it had stuck with Godzilla versus the military for the entire runtime, I may recommend this to a lot more people, but seeing as it's basically a weird time capsule of the late 90s, I can only recommend it to people who aren't looking for a high quality film. Godzilla fans hate this movie and say it's atrociously terrible and a sin against humanity. Now, while I find that statement a bit overkill, I will say that if I was a diehard Godzilla fan, I might be a little pissed that Godzilla was defeated the way he was in the movie. I also wouldn't appreciate some of the changes to the monster's origin and the lack of something for Godzilla to fight. But reviewing this film as just its own movie lets me give it a bit of a fair assessment, and my opinions on the film are far less harsh than people who love the Japanese Godzilla to death seem to give it. As a movie, I find Godzilla deeply flawed, but still enjoyable. The good just barely outweighs the ludicrous and cheesy for me, and I still consider it to be a worthy guilty pleasure, the same as Mortal Kombat or Anaconda. As a Godzilla movie akin to its predecessors like Godzilla vs. Megalon, Destroy All Monsters, and Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, this movie is totally out of the left field and unrelated to any of that. But I don't think it was ever trying to be a Godzilla movie at all, to be honest. It's really just the Jurassic Park 3 that never came out, only created as a satirical and sometimes super lame comedy. Is it the worst movie ever made? Totally not. Is it the worst Godzilla movie ever made? That's debatable.
Godzilla says that I should learn to fight my own battles, you know.
Is it a good movie? That's totally subjective. To me, it's good dumb fun. Some may agree with me and some may not, and hey, that's totally fine. I gotta say, I really enjoyed my time revisiting the film though, and I can't really say it's an abomination or anything of the sort. Hopefully you guys enjoyed hearing my thoughts on this movie, and if you did, I'd appreciate it if you left me a like. If you're new to the channel, I hope you consider subscribing if you'd like to stay up to date with my latest content. Tell me what you think about this movie down below in the comments, as I'm pretty curious to see if you've all seen this movie and what your opinions are on it. Thanks for watching the video, guys, and as always, take it easy.